Stop for a moment. This is not just another message passing by. Something in you paused, and that alone is worth noticing. You've felt it lately, haven't you? The restlessness, the quiet pull, the sense that something is shifting beneath the surface. This may be more meaningful than it first appears, and it is worth paying attention to. Right now, in this exact moment, you are being invited to pay attention, not out of fear, but because what comes next requires clarity. Stay here. Don't rush past this. What you have been trying to understand may be closer than it seems. Because what is forming within you requires focus, I am asking you to slow down and stay present. If these words resonate with you, take a quiet moment to reflect, then stay present, because what is being placed before you needs your full attention. This is not a moment to drift past. What is being placed before you needs your full attention, because truth cannot settle in a distracted heart. You may feel uncertain, even unready. You may quietly question whether you are capable of carrying something greater. But purpose has never been built on perfection. It grows in those who keep going when giving up would be easier. You have endured more than you give yourself credit for. You have held on through seasons that tried to break your confidence, and yet something in you remained. This moment is not only meant to comfort you, it is meant to realign you. For too long, you have measured your life by visible outcomes. Closed doors, unanswered questions, silent seasons. But what is unseen often carries more weight than what is visible. As it is written, the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. What is being formed in you matters more than what you currently see around you. You asked for direction, you searched for clarity, and now, in this moment, something is beginning to make sense, but only if you stay present enough to receive it. Do not rush ahead. Do not let fear interpret what has not yet fully been revealed. There is something being built inside you right now, quietly but intentionally. Let this be a reminder. You are not alone. This season will not last forever, and what felt like delay may have been protecting you. There were paths you desired that were not meant to carry your future. There were doors that remained closed because they would have led you away from what truly matters. As it is written, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Psalm 37:23. What feels like waiting has not been empty. Beneath the surface, strength has been forming, patience has been deepening, understanding has been growing in ways you could not measure at the time. Like a seed hidden in the soil, unseen yet alive, something has been developing that requires time before it can be revealed. So remain here. Let these words settle. Set aside doubt for a moment. Quiet the noise around you. Because what you are beginning to understand now is not small. It is a shift in how you see your life, your past, and what is ahead. And as it unfolds, you will realize that this moment was not something to overlook, but something to receive. Stay here a moment longer. This is not something to move past quickly. Something within you paused, and that pause matters. Let the noise fade. Let the rush slow down. Give this your full attention, because this moment carries more weight than it first appears. You may think you arrived here by chance, just another message in a long stream of words, but deeper than habit, deeper than curiosity, something drew you to stop. There are moments that seem ordinary on the surface, yet hold the power to shift direction entirely. This is one of them. This is not something to pass by without noticing. Even the smallest nudge you felt to stay is not without meaning. As it is written, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Proverbs 16:9. What feels like a simple pause may hold more meaning than you first realized. There have been days when you wondered if anything was truly changing, if your questions were heard, if your waiting had purpose. Yet even in those quiet places, something was being arranged. What you could not see was still being shaped. What you thought was still was not empty. Consider Esther, who found herself in a position she did not fully understand, only to realize later that her moment had been prepared long before she recognized it. Esther 4:14. In the same way, what you are encountering now is not disconnected from your journey, it is part of it. So do not rush past this. Do not let doubt dismiss it too quickly. What you are sensing, that subtle pull, that quiet awareness, is not without reason. It is an invitation to see more clearly, to listen more closely, and to recognize that this moment may carry more purpose than you first assumed. Stay attentive, because sometimes what appears small becomes the very point where everything begins to change. That is why, even if you do not fully understand why you are here, this moment still carries meaning, but this moment carries more meaning than it first appears. Something has been building quietly beneath the surface of your life details, aligning, paths shifting, possibilities forming where you once saw none. Not everything important announces itself loudly. Some of the most significant changes begin where you cannot yet see them, but clarity requires your attention. If your focus is scattered, you may miss what is being revealed. If you rush ahead, you may overlook what is meant to guide you. So pause. Let your thoughts settle. Because seasons do not shift randomly, they transition with purpose, and something within you has already sensed it. You have felt that inner tension, that unexplainable awareness that something is changing. Not chaos, movement, not confusion, transition. As it is written, to everything there is a season. Ecclesiastes 3:1. What you are experiencing is not without meaning. It is part of a shift that requires you to be present enough to recognize it. There have been moments in your life that felt accidental, decisions that seemed small, outcomes that appeared disappointing. Yet, over time, you begin to see how those moments redirected you, how closed paths protected you, how delays reshaped your direction. Like David, who once stood unseen in the field before stepping into purpose, preparation often happens long before recognition. 1 Samuel 16:11-13. And now, you stand at a point where understanding is beginning to unfold. Questions you carried quietly are moving closer to clarity. Answers you thought were distant are nearer than you realized. But this requires something from you: presence, not later, not when it feels easier. Now, because some moments are easy to miss if you are not present for them. They pass quietly, like doors that open without noise, and if your attention is elsewhere, you may not recognize them for what they are. You have carried more than most people know. You have stayed steady when it would have been easier to let go. You have continued forward even when certainty was not clear, and none of that has been overlooked. It has been part of what brought you here, ready to see differently, ready to understand more deeply. What is coming next will begin to connect what once felt scattered. It will give meaning to delays that felt confusing. It will reveal that what seemed closed was not the end, but part of a larger direction forming over time. So stay present. Let this moment reach you fully, because what you are stepping into is a turning point shaped with purpose. And as it unfolds, it will ask you to see yourself differently, not through doubt, not through past outcomes, but through purpose. Where you are being led, confusion cannot remain. Where clarity is forming, hesitation begins to lose its voice. This is why your attention matters now, because what unfolds next requires you to recognize who you truly are becoming. You may have questioned your place more than once. You may have looked at your life and wondered if you were overlooked, if your path held the same meaning as others. But your story was never random. As it is written, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you," Jeremiah 1-5. Long before your first memory, your existence already carried intention. You were never an afterthought. Every part of you, your strength, your sensitivity, even the struggles you wished were different, has been part of a larger design. There were seasons when you felt unseen, when progress seemed distant, when comparison made you question your value. Yet even in those moments, nothing about you was misplaced. Like Moses, who once doubted his own voice before stepping into purpose, Exodus 4:10-12, what you saw as limitation did not cancel what was placed inside you. It only delayed your recognition of it. You have measured yourself by what you have achieved, by what did not work, by how others perceived you. but your identity was never meant to be built on those things. It is rooted deeper than performance, deeper than approval, deeper than failure. What defines you is not what you have done, but what has been placed within you, and that has not changed. There is something within you that this moment is beginning to awaken, a strength you may have overlooked, a direction you may have questioned, a purpose that has remained steady even when everything around you felt uncertain. You are here now because something in you responded. While others moved on, you paused. While others dismissed, you stayed. And that response matters more than you realize. It reflects a readiness, not perfection, but openness, not certainty, but willingness. And willingness is often where change begins. There may be paths ahead opening in time, connections you have not yet recognized, and opportunities that will make sense later. What once felt like delay is beginning to reveal itself as preparation. What once felt like silence is beginning to show itself as structure. Like David, anointed long before he was seen by others. 1 Samuel 16:13. Your becoming has been in motion long before recognition arrives. So do not define yourself by where you have been. Do not limit yourself by what has not yet happened. There is more unfolding than you can currently see, and it is connected to something far greater than a single moment. Because this is not just about where you are, it is about who you are becoming. And before anything else defined you, your identity was already being formed with purpose. Before roles, outcomes, or opinions, your identity was already established with purpose. You were never meant to drift without direction. Even when your path felt uncertain, it was never without design. What you have walked through, even the parts that felt delayed or unclear, has been part of something forming over time. There were seasons when doubt grew louder than confidence. Moments when you compared your journey to others and wondered if you had been overlooked. Yet, even in those thoughts, something deeper within you resisted giving up completely. That quiet persistence was not accidental. As it is written, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand." Ephesians 2:10. Your path was prepared long before you could recognize it. What is unfolding now is not separate from your story, it is connected to it. The shifts you are beginning to sense are not random changes. They are continuations of something already set in motion. What once felt like waiting is beginning to reveal itself as preparation. What once felt like redirection is beginning to show its purpose. There were moments when certain doors closed and you did not understand why, but over time you may begin to see how those closures protected your direction. Like Paul, who was redirected from one path to another for a greater purpose, Acts 16-6:10. What seemed like interruption was often guidance. When you feel uncertain, remember this: your life has never been without intention. When you feel unseen, remember this: you have never been outside of awareness. When you feel small, remember this: your presence in this moment still carries meaning. There is something within you that has been forming quietly, not rushed, not forced, but shaped through time, through experience, through both clarity and confusion. And one day, you will look back and recognize how even the difficult parts contributed to what you are becoming. The questions you carried refined your understanding. The waiting strengthened your patience. The hidden seasons built a foundation that visible success alone could not create. So do not define yourself by what has not happened yet. Do not measure your worth by how quickly things change. What is ahead is not meant to confuse you, it is meant to align with who you are becoming. As it is written, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." Philippians 1-6. Lift your perspective. You are not misplaced. You are not forgotten. You are part of something still unfolding. And what is coming next? It may already be unfolding, step by step, in its own time. And when you look back step by step, you will see that nothing in your journey has been overlooked. There were nights when everything was silent around you, yet your thoughts would not rest. Moments when you held everything together in front of others, only to feel the weight fully when you were alone. You may have believed those moments went unseen, but they did not. Every quiet tear, every unspoken prayer, every question you could not fully form was known. As it is written, "You have kept count of my tossings, put my tears in your bottle." Psalm 56:8. Nothing you carried in silence was ever ignored. Even the prayers that never became full sentences still carried meaning. There were times when all you could ask was how much longer. Not with anger, but with quiet exhaustion. You kept going, even when hope felt fragile. You stayed, even when answers did not come. And that endurance mattered more than you realized. You experienced a kind of loneliness that is hard to explain, being present with others, yet feeling something deeper within you that no one fully understood. You fulfilled responsibilities. You showed up when needed. But inside, there was a quiet longing to be understood without having to explain everything. And even there, you were not alone. There were moments when it seemed like nothing was changing, when your prayers felt unanswered, when time stretched longer than you expected. You counted the days, the months, wondering why clarity had not arrived. And slowly, doubt tried to take shape. But your story was never defined by delay. What felt like waiting was not empty. It was forming something within you. There are strengths that can only grow in stillness. There are depths that can only develop in seasons where answers are not immediate. Like Job, who walked through questions without clear explanation, yet emerged with deeper understanding. Job 42:5. Your process has been shaping more than you could see at the time. You asked if something had gone wrong. You wondered if you had missed something. But the delay was not rejection. The silence was not absence. The waiting was not abandonment. It was preparation. Because if everything had come instantly, it might not have lasted. What is built over time carries a different kind of strength. What is formed through patience holds deeper roots. And now, you can begin to see it differently. None of it was wasted. Not the questions, not the waiting, not even the moments when you felt at your weakest. Each part has contributed to what is forming within you now. You have grown in ways that are not always visible at first glance. You have developed endurance. You have gained perspective. You have learned to continue forward even without full clarity. And that matters. Because what once felt like it would break you has quietly been building you. That is why, even in the moments when you grew tired of asking, something deeper was still being formed. When repeating the same prayer felt heavy, almost unnecessary. You wondered if your words still mattered, if silence meant your voice had faded into nothing. But persistence is never ignored. Even the smallest whisper carries weight when it comes from a sincere heart. Each time you returned, even with uncertainty, something deeper was being formed within you. As it is written, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find." Matthew 7:7. Not always instantly, but always with purpose. What you experienced as delay was not refusal. It was alignment unfolding beyond your sight. There were movements happening that you could not measure. Circumstances adjusting, paths redirecting, outcomes being shaped in ways you could not yet recognize. Some things had to shift before what you asked for could arrive in the right way. And there were also things you were protected from, outcomes you never saw, directions that could have led to greater difficulty. What you once called missed opportunities were often quiet redirections. Like Joseph, who endured setbacks that later revealed their purpose. Genesis 50-20. What seemed unfair at the time carried meaning beyond the moment. Waiting can feel heavy, especially when answers seem distant. It can make you question timing, question progress, even question yourself. But your value has never been measured by how quickly things change. Growth does not always happen in visible ways. In stillness, something deeper develops. Patience takes root, perspective expands, strength forms quietly. As it is written, "Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete." James 1-4. What you have been through has been shaping you, even when you could not see the result yet. The emotions you carried were not signs of weakness. They reflected how deeply you care, how fully you feel, how alive your spirit is. Sensitivity is not something to dismiss. It is part of what allows you to grow, to understand, to connect. And through every moment, you were not alone. Even when it felt like nothing was happening, something was being built. Even when it felt like you were overlooked, your journey was still unfolding. The waiting you experienced was not permanent. It was part of a chapter, not the entire story. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, still seeking clarity, says something meaningful about your journey, because it shows that your faith, even when tested, remained. You may still have questions. You may still be waiting for certain things to become clear, but the process is not finished yet. What you have walked through has been preparing you for what comes next. Very little of what you have walked through was meaningless. Every tear, every question, every moment of waiting contributed to something forming beneath the surface. Like seeds growing unseen before they break through the ground, what has been developing will reveal itself in time. So do not look back at the waiting with regret. Do not see the silence as empty. It has been shaping something within you that could not have been formed any other way. And what is ahead will reflect the depth that was built in what you thought was delay. That is why this moment matters now more than ever. It was never about simply holding your attention. It was about recognizing what stands before you. Some moments carry more weight than others. They do not always appear dramatic, yet they mark quiet turning points where direction can shift. There have been times when you felt a subtle pull within a thought that lingered, a hesitation that asked you to pause, a quiet awareness that something needed your attention. Sometimes you responded, other times you moved past it too quickly, and in those moments it was not information you missed, it was timing, because response shapes direction, as it is written. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Hebrews 3:15. Not as pressure, but as awareness. Because when you recognize the moment and respond, clarity begins to follow. When you delay, uncertainty often remains longer than it needs to. This is not about perfection. It is about sensitivity, learning to recognize what gently calls your attention. These moments are rarely loud. They come quietly, like Elijah hearing the still small voice after the wind and fire passed. 1 Kings 19:11-12. Easy to overlook, yet deeply significant when received. You may think missing a moment changes everything, but it does not remove purpose. It only shifts how long it takes to step into it. Direction remains, but awareness determines how quickly you walk in it. And right now, you are being invited to respond differently. Not with fear, not with pressure, but with presence. Because this is not just another passing moment, it is an opportunity to move forward with clarity instead of hesitation, with awareness instead of uncertainty. So, notice what you feel. Pay attention to what is stirring within you. Do not dismiss it too quickly, because sometimes the smallest response becomes the beginning of a meaningful change. If this message spoke to you in a meaningful way, you can save it or return to it when you need clarity again, and if it feels right, share it with someone who may need this reminder today.